Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. And first thing, of course, we want to wish everyone good health. Hope all is well, and thank you for joining us this weekend on Missoula Real Estate Today. Presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. I figured it was probably a good weekend to bring in Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. You doing good?
Yeah, good morning, Denny. How you doing?
Oh, just fine. I'm sure glad you came in. So.
Well, everything's been canceled, so here I am.
Yeah, coronavirus fears and interest rates and your 29-minute presentation on the relationship between the two.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to walk out of the room while you talk.
Yeah, I'll just talk away.
I'll see you in half an hour.
Yeah, go take a break.
But just like every industry, you are obviously affected. But what is the buyer and seller frame of mind, and how do you feel about things?
You know, I've been getting a lot of questions, obviously, from people who are thinking of selling or basically have their houses on the market, or the buyers. I'll start with my sellers. You know, I'm telling my sellers that, you know, if they're not a health risk and are so inclined to show their house, that we can take extra precautions, and we will do everything we can to keep them safe. Once the showing happens, if they want to go through and Clorox, bleach, everything, they're more than welcome to do that. Get out the can of Lysol spray, wipe down the doorknobs and everything. We are provided with a lot of resources from the National Association of Realtors that are giving us tips and stuff for us to share with our clients, our sellers, actually our buyers too, but since we're talking about sellers, you know, it's just really being precautionary. Whether you're a health risk or not, nobody wants the coronavirus, obviously. And so we're just taking very careful steps to make sure everybody stays as safe as they possibly can, you know, based on the recommendations of the, at the national and state level. We're doing everything the CDC is recommending. Our industry is not closed. We are open for business. And I think that's the first thing people need to understand is people still need to buy and sell homes regardless of what's going on in the world and the country. And so here we are. So, sellers, are if they're a high health risk, they're saying absolutely no showings. That's okay. We're okay with that. Talking about the buyers, basically, you know what? We got buyers milling around. We have a pent up demand of buyers wanting to buy houses because the interest rates are still at historic lows. No, folks, the rate did not get dropped at 0% for home mortgages.
Right.
When they hear that the feds dropped the rate to zero, my phone was blowing up. Everybody wanting to refinance.
Let me stop you there and just ask you, where was how did that confusion start? I mean, was that just a whole lot of people believing what they thought they heard or what they wanted to hear? How did that happen? Anyway?
I kind of think that, the general population hears that the feds reduced the rate to zero, and they automatically think mortgage rates. And I don't think that everyone absolutely thinks that there's a difference. And so a lot of education, rates are still historically low, but no, they are not at zero. So there's that's a whole show we could do. That's a great show for Miles or Rob because that's their industry and they understand all of the finer details of why rates are not at zero. But again, we're still dealing with pent up demand of buyers, low interest rates, and people wanting to buy houses. So if they're wanting to look, we are willing to show houses. I know a lot of places around the country are going to virtual showings. Well, we literally already do that anyway.
Been doing that for years.
We've been doing that for years. We've got all of our listings are you can literally walk through them. And so I think for buyers, it's if they're willing to look and the sellers are willing to show, we're in business. If we run into houses, I've got some folks this weekend, and I know about half of the houses are not going to be available that they want to see. And so we'll just have to make arrangements a little bit differently. We can drive by, we can ask the agent or the seller to give us a virtual tour or do a FaceTime with us. I mean, if they don't want people in their house, there are ways around that. So Today's technology gives us lots of options.
I interrupted you there to ask about the interest rate thing when you're talking about precautionary measures for both buyers and sellers. But what are can you give an example of what is the association telling you to do as precautionary measures or steps to take ahead of time?
For the sellers, just, making sure that one of the great ideas is just leave, your cupboard doors open, leave things just wide open. And that way people aren't opening and closing your closets or your drawers or your kitchen cupboards. I mean, that's one simple thing. But again, just having the buyer be conscious as they're walking through the house, not to extraordinarily touch everything. We're all inclined to touch the countertops
Sure.
and run our hands over the furniture or whatever. Just don't do that. And just kind of those little things that people probably should be doing anyway.
Common sense things.
The note to the seller is making sure that they just, if there's anything that they feel they need protected, or if there's a room they don't want people in, mark the door, please do not enter. There's just things that we can do, and we've got all those resources available. We're willing to share with our sellers and our buyers. We've prepared a one-sheet flyer for each of them that we just give them, and they can follow it or not. But we want to make sure our clients stay safe. We want to stay safe, right? We don't want to be infected by any way, shape, or form. And again, just like anything, just common sense and being smart. And for those that have immune systems, weak immune systems, or for any reason shouldn't be out and about, don't be out and about. Stay home, and don't let any strangers into your house. So we get that. So we're working around it.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and our guest is Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate this week. You don't want to describe it as a panic or desperate situation, but obviously you deal with this regardless of what's going on in the world. You deal with this all the time, is that there are people who probably have to sell fairly fast or maybe have to buy fairly fast. And I guess that kind of overlaps the category we're talking about as far as, well, I don't really want to show my home, but I kind of have to show my home.
Right.
I don't really want to look at houses right now, but now's probably a good time to be looking at them. And we got to make a move.
Right.
We got to go.
Yeah, I've got a couple families that are relocating here from out of state, and they do have to make the move. They've taken the job isn't on hold waiting for them. They've made a commitment to take the job in Montana, one starting in July and one starting in August. And so, they've got to come here and find a place to live for their family. And things don't stop. You go back, we visited before we came online about 9/11, and the world stopped as we know it, but it definitely didn't, completely stop people from moving around. People are still moving around. I'm back to 1980, May 18th, 1980. It was my mom's birthday and my senior year in high school, and Mount St. Helens blew up. Life as we know it changed, but things keep moving, and we may adjust. We may have to do things differently, which is okay. I think in all that I'm reading and hearing and seeing, I think, as much as we don't like what the coronavirus is doing to our community, I think people are getting out more. I think people are communicating and calling people more. I'm hearing a lot of positives, so we hope that continues. I just think that people need to know home is where people's heart is, and they need to be there. And we're willing to work with folks in whatever way, shape, or form that they best need to be worked with. I mean, we can't make someone show their house if they don't want to show their house. But if we've got buyers that are here and they're ready to spend X amount of dollars, it's really interesting. We were going gangbusters. We were hitting the ground running with this early spring, February, when the groundhog didn't see a shadow. Is that right? Did I get that right?
That's correct.
I always get confused with that.
If he sees his shadow, he gets scared. He runs back in the burrow. And so, if he doesn't see a shadow, that's supposed to be good.
Okay, good. Well, we're definitely we're experiencing a vibrant spring market. as of in the middle of February. And those people who all were in buying mode, were buying houses, are closing now in March. So I think our first quarter is going to show really good numbers. We won't know until the end of March, but we'll have Mr. Brent Wahlberg come in and do a quarterly update for sure. But, I think that, the Q2 is going to be the one for everyone that's going to be a little bit different, have a different look due to the coronavirus. Things all across the board, I think, are going to just soften a little bit during Q2. But I guess, the spring market as we know it is vibrant as it can be. The robins are chirping. People are starting to think about planting. And, I think we just need to keep moving things forward as best we can and keep a positive attitude. I mean, I think that's what we're seeing and hearing. I mean, if you feel sorry for yourself for whatever reason, I mean, think about the other people who maybe are completely unemployed because their restaurant or bar is shut down during this time. I mean, there's a lot of people in need out there, and I think our community is rising to the occasion, which is awesome. But I guess as far as the real estate market goes, we're plowing along, and I think we're going to continue plowing along just for all the reasons I stated earlier. We have historically low interest rates, which make a huge difference. If for some reason the rates went crazy high right now, then we would be at a screeching halt. This is nothing like the recession we saw and the housing crash in 2008, 2009. I think that's what people need to know. We keep hearing recession in the news. Yes, economically, we will be in a form of a recession, but I think we will come back bigger, better, and stronger when we get through it. And housing is not going to crash. I get that straight out of the mouth of the economist for the National Association of Realtors, National Home Builders, the banking industry. The stars are not aligned for a crash, so that, in my opinion, will not happen. Things are much different and look much different than it did when the markets crashed the last time.
Right.
And heaven forbid, it took how long? 5 years for to see the signs of recovery.
Well,
Everybody
07 is kind of, everybody kind of refers back to 07 as when things really got bad.
Yeah. 08 was when the stock market crashed.
Carryover,
and it got really bad. And 9, 10, 11, 12. It was a long period of time and very painful for a lot of people in all industries. And the foreclosure rate skyrocketed. I mean, it was, but we're not there. I need our listeners to know we're not there. We might see some market adjustment. We might see more homes for sale. There are things that are positive that could come out of this that are unforeseen at this point in time. But we have been looking for homes for sale for the last 5 years. And now is the time for those who are thinking about making a move to really seriously consider it. The market's at an all-time high in terms of values, and rates are at an all-time low for home buyers. So if people are thinking of selling, it is a great time.
And I'm not sure if I got the sequence of events correct, and you can help me here, but the lower rate, I don't want to say pre-coronavirus, but really before things got to where we're shutting stuff down and closing up and putting life on hold, it seems like that rate was there prior to that, but
correct.
Maybe that's not a coincidence.
Actually, it had dropped a little bit prior to the big coronavirus scare, and that shot up a lot of refinances, a lot of people wanting to, reduce their interest rate, but wanting to buy houses because the rate was so low. It's creeped up back a little bit, but not very high. We're still under 4%, and people need to realize that is a really good rate. For the folks that are thinking about refinancing, there is a mad dash right now on refinancing. Give us a call. We talk people through that all the time. What is the breaking point for making a refinance if your loan's only 2 years old? And it depends on what your interest rate is and what the term is left. And we can talk you through that.
Yeah.
So can our lenders, Miles Link at Opportunity Bank and Rob Fleming over at Man Mortgage. those are things you need to sit down and talk about. I think everybody's going to be evaluating their portfolios right now, whether it's a real estate portfolio, whether it's an investment portfolio, whether it's, what are your mortgage rates? I think it's a really good time. You're stuck in your house. Why not really take a look at your financial situation and see what you could do to better your position?
But that is a common misconception, isn't it? When you talk about refinancing always sounds like a good thing, but you've got to put you kind of got to do the math and balance it out and make sure that a customer understands. Well, yeah, it could be, but here's why it might not be. Right.
Right. You just have to look at the term of the loan, where you're at now, what your current interest rate is, where you're what are your long term? Are you going to stay in the house another 5 years, or are you going to be in it longer? There's a lot of questions that need asked, and that's what our job is to help people kind of through that. And of course, the lenders. We really understand that people, if they want to reduce their debts right now, maybe a refinance is a really good idea as long as they've got good credit and good equity and good standing. They'll be fine. Here's an example. It's somebody come to us and say, we need to downsize. And I said, okay. And they said, we're looking at retirement and we want a lower house payment and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And I looked at their mortgage statement for what we're paying for their interest rate. And I looked at them and said, you guys just need to refinance. You don't need to sell your house and actually move, which, that's a listing and a sale for me that I'm just saying. But in their best interest, I said, unless you want a much smaller house, maybe refinancing the loan you have is a better option. Yeah. So, there are things that people need to look at. And that's what we're here to help people do, is look at those options, not necessarily put their house on the market. It's not always the right thing to do.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. And it's always nice to have Diane Beck on her.
Always nice to be here,
on
Danny.
Her weekly program. And based on what you talked about, 5-10 minutes ago, I'm going to assume at least at this point, you have not had a much buyer reaction, buyers coming back and pulling the plug because they come to you and say, Diane, I'm out of a job. I'm laid off. I know it's temporary, but I don't know how temporary. We're living a little paycheck to paycheck right now, and I can't do it.
We on our team have not seen that. Obviously, there's probably some of that going on out there. I don't want to make it sound like there's not. Yeah. We have not experienced that yet. We've had a couple calls from buyers saying a little concerned about the stock market and the future, sure. And but 9 times out of 10, we've heard more people saying, as soon as I can, I'm going to get my money out of the stock market and buy real estate. And so we've heard more of the opposite. People concerned? Yes, absolutely. Are they? Obviously, if they are unemployed, they are not going to get the loan. So we better figure that out sooner rather than later. I have not had that happen yet. I think that, fortunately, knock on wood, that has not happened on our team yet. But I'm sure it's happening. I did hear a situation where someone said they weren't going to let someone make an offer on their house because of the industry that they worked in, and they didn't really know the particulars. And it was kind of a really unique scenario. And, of course, I don't have enough information to make it. But, you got to be careful with that, because just because their employment or their employer is in one certain industry, that doesn't mean that purchaser can't afford to buy your house. So everybody just needs to be a little bit careful about that, and do your homework, do your research, and let's figure things out. But no knee-jerk reactions, people. I think that's what's really important, is that folks don't get caught up in that knee-jerk reaction to what's going on. And everybody's being, I got to say, Missoula is awesome. I have been out and about probably more than I should be, but people are really nice. Everyone's super courteous. Everybody's being, I have seen not anyone being mean or obnoxious out and about. So I'm pretty happy to hear that. I haven't been out. I mean, I've been out what I've had to be, I'm not hoarding toilet paper. For
Good for
those
you.
of you that are listening, I don't
Right.
have excessive
You're
amounts.
not, when you do a showing, you're not sneaking into the bathroom
No.
and grabbing a roll or two.
No,
Okay, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
We're keeping an eye on people, but
ma'am.
everybody. I think at the end of the day, we're all going to be better and stronger for this, and I think as long as we stick together and keep our heads up, everybody's going to be just fine.
Well, and I think it all speaks to this too, Diane, and it's one area that I don't think you and I have spotlighted a lot is the advantages you can offer as a local agent in the field of accessing sale prices in multiple listing services, because that peace of mind and that accuracy, I would say this is a great example of why it's such an important time.
Absolutely. So, yes, all real estate is local. I talk about the National Association of Realtors. I'm the president of the Montana Association of Realtors. So I get access to information around the state and around the country on a regular basis. It's very different from market to market to market. So all real estate is local, and having a real estate professional that knows that market is really critical. I wouldn't go over to Helena or Great Falls or Kalispell to show and sell houses any more than the man on the moon, because I don't know those markets. And what buyers and sellers need to understand is work with someone in the market that knows the market, that has the background, experience, and knowledge to really maximize your position and make sure you don't make any mistakes.
Right.
And so local real estate is local. And thank goodness it is, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be in business. I mean, I go back and feel, the travel agents in this country, their world was tipped upside down with the internet, and ours could have been too, but we have not allowed that to happen. We are the source of the information. We have the access to the houses. We're still doing business the way we did, 30, 40 years ago. We have a key to a house. We have access, and we have cooperation amongst our agents. So make sure people, if you're working with, whether you're selling or whether you're buying, you're working with an experienced, knowledgeable agent. It's really critical.
I think the last time you were here, it's been long enough ago that your new term had not started yet, and congratulations. It had slipped my mind. You are once again president of the Montana Association of Realtors.
Correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yep.
What's all involved? What does the president do?
You know what? It's been interesting because I've had to cancel a lot of meetings. And we had 2 large events, statewide events, that have been canceled. And so, but you know what? It's the leadership at the right leadership at the right time. And I was actually the president in 2005, also kind of at the height of the last market, which is pretty interesting. And so this is my second time doing it, and we have 4,500 members across the state that are they're part of they're the fabric of the community. They're on the school boards, they're the PTA, they're working in the food banks. Our members are probably some of the most active people in the state, in the communities that you will see. And so I think that just remember, we're your neighbors and your friends. Yeah. And we have as the president of the association, my job is to make sure that everybody's, getting information, that we're passing on the latest and the best technologies and information to them that we can. And that's what we do. The National Association of Realtors is the largest trade organization in the world. I was just speaking in Alaska at a conference, and I said in the country, and the president of NAR told me that I was wrong and that it was the world. So we're pretty powerful, and we take what we do really seriously. So first of all, make sure you're working with a realtor, not just a licensee. But secondly, just make sure you're working with someone that knows what they're doing. It's really critical.
In 2005, when you did this, if somebody told you, the next time you're president, there's going to be 4,500 realtors, you probably would have said, no, there's not.
No, there's not. No, there's not. If
Probably
they would have told
less
me there was going to be a coronavirus, I would have said, oh, no, there's not. But, we just make the best of it and do what we do. And it's critical that our members are safe. We've been putting out information for this whole last week on, things that they can do. And we're putting out new forms in case there are delays in financing. We're quick to act on doing whatever we need to do to make sure that our public and our members are safe.
Is that a significant risk, delay in financing right now for various reasons that are
it could
related
be.
to all this?
Yeah, we can't control things the way we'd like to, but if this is causing delays, we have an addendum that will have that happen. I'm sure, just like a lot of other things, there's a lot of waivers going on because when you lock into an interest rate, you have a certain period of time of which you have to close on that mortgage.
Right.
I have not heard of any waivers of those lock periods, but I would be surprised if there wasn't. But, we're talking a couple-week delay. Our title companies and our lenders are working through. We can do closings virtually. We don't have to be face-to-face. Everything we can do by electronic signature. Everything we can do virtually. The hard part about buying a house is if you bought something sight unseen and you got into it later and you were disappointed, that would be awful. But other than walking through the house, everything can be seriously very virtual.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and we want to say thank you to some of Diane's marketing partners that helped bring you the show. You guys already got props earlier in the program, but we'll give you more. Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, Miles Link of Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. Our guest is Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Gosh, I cannot believe that we are almost out of time, but there's probably not a lot of updates on median home prices in Missoula. As everybody knows, that's not on the decline. But do you see anything? And I don't want to tie everything to the coronavirus, but do you see anything in any indicators that it might level off or drop a little bit?
I personally, and this is, our numbers guru, Brent, can speak to this a little bit more, but I see a tapering off a little bit. But I said that last year, too, pre-coronavirus.
Yeah.
I think things need to taper off because prices have gotten so high. So if there's anything that comes out of this, I hope to see a plateau of pricing. I hope to see more buyers getting into homes because there's been a pent-up demand. I think we're going to have a great year. My crystal ball says in 6 months from now, we are going to be rocking and rolling, and we're going to have a great 2020. And I'm sticking to that. I really feel in my heart that until something major shift happens, I think we're going to be just fine.
Well, and as well as anybody that even in a slower housing market, and I'm talking about the big picture, the country, Missoula appears to be a high demand area, and that means housing prices are, they're not going to be rock bottom.
No, they're not. And I think what people need to know is, and I hear this, anybody coming from anywhere around this country say, "Wow, your prices are so high. Why are they so high?" Because people want to live here. Sure. We've got great medical, we've got great retail, we've got great shops and restaurants and music and live music venues, and people want to be here. The University of Montana is a huge draw. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. And I think we're fortunate to live here. Are there some things that could be improved that I won't start talking about now? Yes, there are. But at the end of the day, people want to be here. And that's what's really driven our prices up because of supply and demand. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's simple math. And, the less houses we have, the more buyers we have, the higher prices go. So, folks, just keep in mind, if you're thinking of selling, it's a great time.
And if we want to work with the Diane Beck and Windermere marketing team, what should we do?
Just call me. I will sit down and we can talk through just about any scenario, any life-changing events that you might have. I got a lot of friends with kids graduating from high school.
Oh boy.
That are in very large houses that might want to be selling soon. So downsizing is the trend, and so give us a call. My cell number is 406-360-7654. Find us online. Just Google Diane Beck Real Estate, and you'll find us.
Great seeing you as always. I'm glad you were able to come in.
Sounds good. I'm sure we'll see each other again real soon.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today.